Hey guys, what is going on? LL here. Hopefully you're all doing well. So in today's episode, I'm going to share with you a recent Q&A I did with some Etsy sellers, basically answering any question they had about starting, building, and growing their Etsy shop. Lots of really good questions. That's why I want to share them with you. Hopefully you can learn and improve your own Etsy business. Without further ado, let's dive right in.
Welcome to the Etsy Entrepreneur Podcast, where sellers can get help starting, building, and growing their Etsy business so that they can make extra money pursuing their passion. Are you ready to get the tips and strategies you need to be successful? Then let's get started. Here is your host, a top 1% full-time Etsy seller, LL.
All right, I'm quite overwhelmed by what it takes to list a product, for example, photos, keywords, descriptions, and then the postage. If I will do it correctly or end up paying it, then I end up just not doing anything because it seems like I will miss something. So do you have any suggestions? Great question, Lisa, but I would encourage you to do it because that's how you learn. Don't be scared. You probably don't like that answer, but it can be overwhelming, but that's how you learn what you're doing. People don't start knowing everything, right? And I've coached many people on this, whereas, I'm not sure how to start, or what do I do? Or I'm not sure how to set everything up. Well, when we're born, we don't know how to talk. We don't know how to walk. We certainly don't know how to go to college, right? So you got to learn that stuff along the way, and you're going to make mistakes. I've made lots of mistakes when I ran my business and when I've done my business. I've sent orders to the wrong people. I've mixed up orders. I messed up 100 variations where I didn't know it was messed up, and I had 20 orders that had no sizes on them. So I had to contact all people and say, hey, you ordered this, but I didn't have the size option. So what size do you want? And it was a nightmare. You got to chip away at it and start throwing stuff out there. Now, there are best practices that you want to kind of look at along the way, but I've revamped my photos probably a half a dozen times. I've revamped my SEO. I can't even count. But once you start learning the best practices, you can go back and tweak that stuff. Now, you want to try and put your best foot forward. A good saying that one of my mentors has always told me, or I've heard from them, is, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to get done. So you can always go back and fix it later. Shipping is not too bad. You can do estimates on USPS.com, and you can estimate if you know the size and weight. Or Etsy, you can have it calculate for you if you put in your zip code and you put in the size and weight. Actually, that's probably a better option now that I think of it, as far as shipping goes, because you can get a little scale. You can purchase a scale on Amazon or whatever to weigh your stuff out. You know how big it is. Photos, you just want to make sure the lighting's good. SEO, that's stuff you're going to learn down the road as far as best practices and stuff like that. But yeah, you just got to get your shop open, and then you can kind of work on, refining that stuff. And, as you go down the road, you'll figure out kind of what works and what doesn't work. But you can't fix anything, and you can't strike out, or you can't hit a home run if your shop's not open. There's a lot of moving parts, and a lot of people look at opening an Etsy shop too is a one and done thing. I got my shop open. Let me get the sales. Where are the sales at? Oh, I don't have any sales. What's going on? Etsy stinks. I hate Etsy. Well, what have you done? What have you done? What have you put into it? We can't just always take, right? That's the way we look at it. We start out and we're like, all the traffic and all the sales, where's it at? Where's it going to come? But we have to put into it. We have to nurture our shop. We have to learn and continue to work on it. Continue to be consistent with learning strategies. You don't know everything up front, but once you learn something new, go ahead and take time that week, set a goal, implement it, fix it, focus on that one thing. The next week, maybe you want to focus on revamping another thing, and then the next another thing, and then it just kind of builds. So hopefully that helps you. All right. What are 2 or 3 biggest mistake beginners should avoid? All right. So I'll touch on a couple of these things real quick. So a couple beginner mistakes that I see, especially when I coach people, is not having their shop sections filled out, especially your logo and your policies, just because it doesn't look great. It's kind of like it's like going to the flea market and, everything's thrown in on a table and it's not branded and you don't know what you're going to get. Right. So you want to make sure that your shop is set up so it looks professional. You can go to canva.com, canva.com, and create a logo for free. It's pretty easy. A lot of people don't create a logo because they overthink it. They want to create something crazy. Your logo, if it's, Emily's Designs, maybe your logo is just an E and a D. That maybe you want to put a little fancy font behind it or something like that. But you can also create a banner image, a custom banner image that way too through Canva. It's a great, pretty easy to use website. You can have someone create a logo for you on Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com for $5. You can hire them to create a logo for you that's professional. But shop policies are a big one. They have default policies in there. You can edit them later. Etsy has them. You can edit your processing times and your payments that you're accepted. But they've made it real easy for you to put policies in there. But there's so many shops that I see that don't have policies. And that's a big red flag, not only for customers, but for Etsy and the algorithm as well, because they like to send buyers to shops that are complete because they think it's going to be a better buying experience. You're pretty certain that the buying experience is going to be at least somewhat decent if they have policy, if they took the time to put policies in there and stuff like that. So go through and make sure your shop looks, it doesn't have to be perfect, like I said, but you want to make sure that stuff's filled out and you can always upgrade it later. I've done it. Many shops have gone in and changed stuff later on. The other thing is probably listing photos. The other big thing. So listing photos, a lot of times it's just really the lighting. And don't feel the need to buy an expensive camera or anything like that. You can do, most phones are plenty good to do your photos. But the lighting is just a lot of times not great. And it really takes away from what you're trying to sell, because you have to think about it like a buyer. When I'm scrolling fast through Etsy trying to find something, am I going to stop on something that looks dull and I can't even tell what it is on the little thumbnails that are flying by my face? No, probably not. I'm going to stop on something that's like well lit, that kind of pops out, and I'm like, ooh, it grabs my attention. You want to make sure the lighting is good, and you want to make sure that your background's not taking away from your image. So a lot of people make that mistake too, is they get, and I've done this too, you get super fancy and you put a lot of stuff beside the item or behind the item, and it looks really cool, and it's like you have a lot of stuff complementing it. But when I'm scrolling fast through it, it looks like a jumbled mess. The picture, when you're just looking at the picture, looks nice. But when you're going real fast, it looks like a jumbled mess. I can't even tell, what I'm looking at. So a lot of times the way to remedy that is just have a background that doesn't take away from the image. Usually like a white background is good. Amazon requires that. You can't even list on Amazon without a white background. And there's a reason they do that, because they want the item front and center, you to focus on the item. Now you can still have a white background and put things in your picture that complement it within reason. So if you have, if you're selling I don't even know, like a necklace and earrings, you can still show them like on a hand and stuff like that. Just, you want to make sure the background is visible, that it's not taking away from the item. That was probably a really bad example. Probably like a shelf is a good example. If you have that, you can decorate the shelf, but don't have like a crazy background where you can't kind of see what it is, or have like a bunch of flowers in the background where you can't see where it is, if that makes sense. So you can get light box. If you have smaller stuff, you can get light boxes and stuff like that. Pretty cheap, especially if you sell jewelry and smaller stuff like that. You can get a light box. You can get a light kit where it's like lights with the little umbrellas that kind of light up the room and take away shadows. Pretty cheap. That stuff's all usually under $100 that you can get. Another thing with pictures too is you want to try and, if possible, I would put the first picture where you can clearly see the item on a clear background, right, where it pops out in the thumbnail. And then your follow-up pictures, if you can, you want to try and show the item in use if possible. Maybe it's in a living room, or it's on someone's wearing it, stuff like that. And then if possible too, you want to try and have a picture basically showing people what size the item is pretty easily. So you can do this really easily by putting it by something that everyone knows. You can put the item by a coffee cup, or put it by a pencil or something like that. Then everyone quickly sees how big the item is, and they don't even have to look at your description to see how big it is, or look at your specs to see how big it is. Now, you don't want to put that picture first because it looks kind of, dumb first, but you want to put it as a reference point in your other options so people can easily see. A lot of people are super visual, so you just want to answer questions visually if you can, and kind of give them that. All right, I just set up my account. I'm intimidated with the listings, the importance on copy, using the correct language with all the variables. It's all original work made with found materials. Even similar products differ because the designs change in the process. To communicate the uniqueness and originality without sounding flighty, also, what do you think are the most important things in your profile? So I think, Cheryl, you're overthinking this a little bit, which we all tend to do. The importance is describing exactly what you're selling, right? And I don't think it's funny at all to describe, what you just said, that however you want to describe what you're selling. I guess it would probably help to know what you're selling, but I wouldn't worry. It sounds like, from the way that you described it, something that's pretty unique and pretty cool to me. And I would just convey that when you're writing and describing what you're selling. In your title, you want to offer a specific search term related to what you're selling. Don't be general, and offer something specific and describing what you're selling as with your search term. And then especially in your description, if you tell people what what it's made of, or how the process changes it, or it's not. I think maybe you're afraid that it's not going to come out the same way every time, maybe. But I would encourage you to just put it out there. You can refine it later. A lot of times when we're afraid to put something out there because we're afraid of what other people think. If you make something good that other people want or other people are going to like, just put it out there, and you can refine it later. If you get questions about it, that's fine. A lot of people have asked me questions along the way that I'm like, holy crap, how did I not have that in my description? It's such an obvious thing, but it wasn't obvious because I'm so close to what I'm selling. So you can always refine that later and, describe it better later if you get questions about it. So that's what you use your customers for, that type of stuff. The ultimate goal of a description is to hit on any question that you may get asked or have gotten asked. That's what you want to cover in your description. And that should come from things that maybe people have asked you before or messaged you about before. Then you would go ahead and maybe clear that up in your description so that you can make your description better and make it refine it better. But everyone doesn't have a perfect description to start. I think maybe I had like a couple words in my description when I first started out. And then I was like, what the heck am I doing? This is a terrible description, and then I refined it later, and then I made a template, and then I started adding stuff in the description later. So I know I kind of fumbled through that, Cheryl. I'm not sure. I would just encourage you to do it, because if you have something unique, with different materials and stuff like that, that stuff, it sounds like it's going to set you apart. And it sounds like what people are looking for, on Etsy, especially, they like stuff like that. They like unique stuff. Is your stuff going to be 100% unique? Is it where it's only you selling it? Probably not. But how can you bring more value? If it's, there's a lot of ways to bring more value to what you're selling, where it makes it more unique than the other person. You put a lot more love into it, and that is displayed and conveyed with your description, your photos, and just how you're explaining it. You're taking time to explain it, and stuff like that. And that will kind of win over buyers as well. All right, guys, that is it for today. Hopefully you enjoyed that Etsy Q&A and learned a lot. Got some good information to dive in, take action, and grow your own Etsy business. If you want to grow your own business, if you're starting out, maybe you're an intermediate seller or beginner, and you want to really start, build, and grow your Etsy business for now and in the future, I'm sharing with you a free 30-day trial to my Etsy Traffic and Sales Masterclass. Has over 25 courses to start, build, and grow your shop. All of the strategies and plan and roadmap I've used to grow my business to the top 1%. Really, what's a game changer with the masterclass is it includes a community help forum where you can work with me directly, get any question answered, but you can also work with other sellers, communicate with other sellers, and really work together as a community to grow your Etsy business for the future. And now, if you want to be a part of this, I also included live member-only group coaching calls once a month. So you can join in on the next member-only group coaching call and get your questions answered just like you just heard. Check out the link below. Jump in, join me. Let's grow your business for the future. I'll be super excited to have you guys in there. Don't wait. Take action. Let's do this. Until next time, I'll talk to you guys later.